Good morning. We gather this morning to honor and remember Sister Margretta Trumm. My name is Michelle Waters, and I'm a member of the pastoral care team here at Mount St. Francis Center. We welcome all of you gathered here in Clare House Chapel, those watching on the in-house system, as well as Sister Margretta's family and friends who are joining us via live stream. There is a saying from an unknown author: God pours life into death, and death into life, without a drop being spilled. As we gather here today, remembering Sister Margretta, we know and trust that all the years she spent receiving care in Holy Family Hall and Clare House, nothing of life, God, or grace was spilled. Margretta has been nourished with love, care, and blessings all these years. Let us join together in song, number 670, 670. I know that my Redeemer lives. We will sing verses 1 and 2 now, and then hold your place for verse 3 at the end. 670.
Psalm 84, praying an invitation to wholeness. How glorious is your dwelling place, O beloved architect of the universe. My soul longs, yes, aches for the abode of the beloved. All that is within me sings for joy. Even as the sparrow finds a home, and the swallow a nesting place, where its young are raised within your majestic creation. You invite us to dwell within your heart. Blessed are they who put their strength in you, who choose to share the joy and the sorrows of the world. They do not give way to fear. They are quickened by divine light and power. They swell within the peace of the Most High. O living creator of the universe, blessed are all who put their trust in you.
Now is our time to share memories of Sister Margretta. Please raise your hand and we will bring a microphone to you and we will hold the microphone for you. Please state your name before sharing your memory or a memory that the family has sent. We still want to know who you are as you read the memory.
I am Ruth Eellsberg. This is a memory from Vicki Greene, a former co-worker. She says, I was a new teacher at Remsen St. Mary's when I met Sister Margretta in the 80s. A most memorable event involved faculty get-togethers held at St. Catherine's School in Owens. She was always in charge of the garlic bread. It had to be done in a specific way and could not be rushed. She was very deliberate and specific in the tasks she did, and did them with love and a smile. May she rest in the arms of Christ.
I'm Sister Lyla Hellman. I lived with Sister Margretta at Remsen, but I also went on common venture with her on 2 different experiences. One to the Choctaw Indians in Mississippi, and another in Chukai, Arizona, to the Navajo Indians. I always found Margretta as a person who was well in charge, knowing exactly what she wanted and where she wanted to go. This particular day, we took a bus to Mississippi. There were 6 of us on the Common Venture team. The bus broke down before we got to Illinois someplace. And of course, we had to wait until we got to Springfield to catch another bus. As soon as the bus came in, Margretta up on her feet, running to the bus, and the 5 of us following her. I was walking the steps to get in the bus, and the bus driver said, "That's it, you're the last one," and there were 2 girls behind me. So I said, "Oops, I can't go. I need to stay with these girls." But, in those days, we didn't have cell phones, so I couldn't let her know that I wasn't going to be on that bus along with 2 other girls. But for luck, I had all the lunches, so we fared well. Then I also lived with Margretta in her passive days. I would go to visit her almost every Monday. And I found that at first I was arguing with God, saying, Margretta's lived a long time. She's served you well. She's been around. She's done her work on earth. Death is part of the circle of life. And then I read Ron Rohauser's book on the passive life is also giving praise to God. And I found that after this, I would go into Margretta's room and I would find that her breathing was very much like my breathing. I could be united with her in many ways. She had to give up all the basic cares of life and give them into the hands of the caregivers and the nurses. And as I would see that she was well dressed every day, even down to the shoes. I thought, my goodness, God is really being praised by a passive life, and God is also being praised by the way the nurses and the aides were taking care of her. She was a special woman, and after I prayed with her, I would find deep peace and love, knowing that she was cared for and that God was very much with her.
This is from a former student from Remsen, a memory from Deacon Rick Roeder. And he is a relative of our former sister Charlotte, Janice Roeder Klein. She was in our class of 57. And Deacon Rick Roeder says, "This dear lady taught us how to be independent learners and to push ourselves to our full potential. She could be stern, yet all of a sudden funny and fun-loving. We loved her at St. Mary's in Remsen. She was part of a legendary staff in our high school and positively affected many, many lives. Rest in peace, dear Sister Margretta. God bless you all."
I'm Sister Rita Greene, and I'm reading this message from Sister Melita Myers. I enjoyed living with Sister Margretta in Remsen, Iowa. She taught in the local high school, and I taught in the grade school. We always had a variety of classroom stories to share about our day while waiting for the evening news to come on. Years later, we shared another experience together at Holy Family Hall. I came to Dubuque for hip surgery, and her room was across the hall from mine. When I was getting assistance from the staff my first evening, I was told, "Don't be alarmed if Sister Margretta starts counting in the middle of the night." Sure enough, a little after midnight, she counted to 100. Loud enough for me to hear. Some nights I would walk over to her room and count with her. Oh, the joy of two teachers, one awake and one asleep, still enjoying math together. Thank you, Sister Margretta.
I'm Sister Bertha Hornert. I lived with Margretta in Remsen for 5 years. I have a message from her great niece, Joni Porter, who lives in Savannah, Georgia, and she is the oldest child of Clarence and Verna Fanglin. I remember Sister Margretta visiting our house in Dyersville when we were little kids. The Fanglin house was a busy house with 7 small children. We were lucky enough to have a large playroom in our basement. We had toys strewn everywhere, and Sister Margretta would help us clean and organize our toy room. I thought that sounds like her. We would put all the games and puzzles in their correct boxes. The toy cars, trucks, dolls, dishes, crayons, and books would all be off the floor and back in the toy box. It didn't seem like work because she would play with us, and before you knew it, by the end of the afternoon, the place was clean. I remember Sister Margretta wearing the long brown habit and veil that all the Franciscans wore in the early 60s. Once when she was playing with us, she stooped over and put one arm up over her head. She was pretending she was an elephant. She was waving her trunk as she stooped over, and in my delight, I yelled, "Make a tail, make a tail." She thought that was so funny. She told that story about me almost every time I saw her, even when I grew up to adulthood. I enjoyed her because she played with us and took the time to get on our level. She was always concerned about what we were doing and how we were doing, even as we were in high school and college. Thank you to the sisters in the Franciscan community who took care of her as her health declined in her later years. The length of her life here on earth is a testimony to the special care she received in this community. And now in heaven, there will be such joy, and it will be a joy that will never cease. She is finally there. They have been waiting for you, O good and faithful servant. And then on a personal note, my very first mission was Remsen. And Sister Margretta and I were chosen to teach religious education classes on Saturday morning. I had grades 5 to 8, 23 students. You can imagine what great teaching was going on with that span. Sister Margretta was teaching on the other end of second floor in the school. At the end of the class, she came to me and said, "Sister, I didn't have to teach this morning. I just listened to you." I learned to lower my voice.
This is another great niece, Martha Kerpis. One of my first memories of Sister Margretta was as a child at a summer picnic at the home of my Uncle Jerome and Aunt Caroline. Sister Margretta and her sister, Sister Martha, were with us, a real treat as we didn't see them often. Even while wearing her full habit, Sister Margretta played catch and softball with my siblings and cousins in the yard. When the picnic lunch was served, Sister Margretta made us kids laugh. She quickly reached from behind one of us seated at the picnic table to pick an olive from our plate. We tried to figure out from whom the next olive would disappear, as she was a master of distraction. It became a game as we'd go to the serving table to get more olives. Sister Margretta visited us each summer on her way to or from teaching summer school, for some years in Niles, outside of Chicago, and for some years in one of the states in the South. She explained that students didn't have as many school days in a year as we did in Iowa, or had fewer teachers, or not very many books. At the time, I understood that schools were not all like the ones my siblings and I attended. Now I understand and appreciate that Sister Margretta was describing structural inequities. I was telling a colleague about this the other week because I now do social justice education work with first-year students at the University of Michigan. I appreciate that Sister Margretta showed what it means to believe in students' ability to learn. I know that was one of my influences on my outlook on education.
I'm Sister Angie, and I have a note here from Sister Margretta's niece, Verna Fanglin. She says Sister Margretta loved coming out to our farm. She was very athletic and would enjoy playing with the kids or going on a hike. During one visit, when she was in her 50s, I took her to the cemetery. Sister had never learned to drive, and so on this day, it was my intent to teach her to drive. Despite my efforts to teach her, it never sunk in, and she did not catch on to driving.
I'm Carol Besh, and this is from the great niece of Roger Kerpis. My mother, Norma Jean Kerpis, Sister Margretta's niece, sends her sympathy. With her, we hold Sister Margarita and the entire Dubuque Franciscan community in our prayers. As we near our celebration of our Lord's Passion, Death, and Resurrection this Easter, we rejoice with full faith and confidence that Sister Margarita rests peacefully in the embrace of Christ. Mom is the oldest daughter of Sister Margarita, older sister Marie. Mom, this is the niece's mother, who is now 88, shares that she still remembers having Sister Margarita give Mom her first bath. Mom says that she remembers Margarita saying what she was still Dolores. She was becoming a Franciscan sister, saying, let's take her upstairs and give her a bath. Having a bathtub in a farmhouse at that time was a rather new and luxurious an item. Mom recalls with pride, based on the emotion she hears in her voice, of being alone when her family dropped Sister Margarita off at the convent the day that she was entering Dubuque Franciscan Order. Mom was only 4 years old at that time and had a vivid memory of Margarita getting out of the car, watching her walk up her stairs with her suitcase to begin her new life as a Franciscan sister. My family, my extended families, aunts, uncles, cousins, always look forward to having the sisters, Margarita and Sister Martha, visit during the summer. Margarita always was so interested in hearing about what they were learning in school. Often these visits included a picnic, and Margarita would usually find her way to the kids' table. She loved to joke, to tease, to play card games with us, and to snitch unguarded goodies, olives, from their plates. Without knowing it then, her example of living life with joy and encouraged all of us to aspire to being the best, most joyful people that we could be.
I'm Sister Arnold Stout. I'm going to take you back to Remsen for a couple little things. By now you know Sister Margretta was good with little kids. When my family would come to visit, she would whisk away the children, take them up to her chemistry lab, and do little experiments for her. My oldest nephew is about 60 years old now, and he said, oh, I remember the little volcanoes that she made for us. Also, in those days, we did musicals at Remsen, St. Mary's, and Sister Margretta was in charge of doing the stage sets. She would do this, have the kids work, and she would have the sisters work too. Sister Lyla knows that. I remember one picture that she drew. She would have a cornfield up on the stage, and all the little cows would be coming out of the cornfield. And Sister Lila's little first graders would jump up and count the cows coming out of Sister Margretta's cornfield. A fine teacher, and she was hardworking. and she was an exercise person, as you might know. That's why she lived so long. She would be out at 6 o'clock in the morning shoveling the snow. But that's Sister Margretta. Okay.
This memory, Sister Mary Kleister. This memory is from Sister Edith Gottsacker. I had my weekly visit with Sister Margretta this past Friday and knew she would be home for Easter. I shared a poem on flowers, recalled our fun days at Bancroft, and always ended our visits by remaining and remembering her, that family was important. Friends and sisters were waiting for her. Margretta had been so full of life, a tomboy who loved playing ball with the younger kids, and a laugh that came from a deep heart. I'm so glad she is now home.
My name is Sister Kathy Knipper, and I first met Margretta in the early 80s when I was part of Common Venture. I was a college student, and my first Common Venture experience was the year of celebrating the 800th anniversary of Francis, and the send-off for all the Common Venture teams was at Washington Park. Some of you may remember being there singing and having Mass together. At that time, families were invited to Mass, of which my parents came, particularly my mother, who was a little hesitant about allowing and letting me go to Chicago with Sister Margretta. And my mother was very moved by the liturgy, as were many of us. And my mom had tears going down her face, and Margretta said to my mother in no uncertain words, "I will bring her home." We had a delightful Common Venture experience in Chicago. Sister Margretta, Sister Elsie, Mary Jane from Sioux City, Mary Jane Musil, whom I still am in touch with, and myself. Mary Jane and I were the drivers, and we got to our car to go to Chicago, and Sister Margretta said, "You drive." Neither Mary Jane nor I had ever driven to or in Chicago, and Margretta would tell us over and over, "You drive. I will tell you how to get there. I will tell you the way." We soon learned that we needed the map to get the way. However, she was always eager to get in the car with us and offer her advice. We had a most delightful 6 weeks together.
I'm Sister Ginny Hilderfer, and when I called Father Sitzman to tell him that Margretta had died, he just said she was so helpful to him when he first became principal at St. Mary's. And whenever he would come to visit, Margretta was always one of the people that he stopped and visited with, as well as Mary Ann Helly and other sisters who had been at Remsen. I know Father Sitzman deeply appreciated her and deeply appreciated the Franciscan sisters who lived there.
I am Sister Mary Lechtenberg, and this is a combination of stories gleaned from the family as well as one of our sisters upstairs. It seems that one of the high schools had a fundraiser, and Margretta offered herself to be sold and to go to a family's home for 1 week and do all the little organization things which we heard about a few minutes ago. That's all that we know, except that it brought in a lot of money for that school, and otherwise we don't know the rest of the story.
Thank you for sharing your stories of Sister Margretta's life. Let us continue to share memories of her during the days and weeks to come. In the words of St. John Chrysostom, "She whom we love and lose is no longer where she was before. She is now wherever we are. In that spirit, let us go forward with hope and belief in the eternal, spiritual, and dynamic cycle of life. Bless us, O generous God, knowing that nothing of our life experiences will be spilled, only understood and blessed by the unconditional love of the divine. Let us close our time together singing I Know That My Redeemer Lives, number 670, verse 3.